How y'all doing? It's about 11:35. In about a week is my birthday. One of my objectives on this channel has been to share ancient knowledge to kind of counter the modern health experts. Now, recently, you may have noticed, I think I mentioned it then, but I want to make this an independent short video to drive the point home. I reviewed the movie The Immortal Sargent, starring Hank Fonda, Maureen O'Hara, whatever, but it's really about, the title is about the guy that he comes to admire, the Immortal Sargent, a guy who had completed as a boy World War I, was retired from the Army, the British Army, and rejoined because he knew, doesn't say it, you can assume that he knew that there'd be young men that don't know how to do shit and they need a sergeant to tell them what to fucking do and what to think, because they're not really. You would recognize the Englishman who plays the part in a heartbeat because he's been in 100 movies or more. He had speaking roles. And this is my point about drinking cold liquids in hot weather. So they're ordered to go out and do some patrol or recon 50 miles out into the Sahara and back. And they've got like an armored personnel carrier. They got an old truck like from the 30s and shit, and an armored personnel carrier from the 30s, and it's not much of a. Then they had a troop carrier deal, but they had like a supply truck, and where they first stopped, you got to carry gas and all kind of other food. And where they stopped, the sergeant gets the commanding officer, can't remember him, don't really remember him, he doesn't last long. The sergeant comes up to him and gives him a snappy salute and said, "Can the men make some tea, sir? There's nothing better to cool you off on a hot day." They're out in the Sahara Desert. And these are people, experienced Englishmen, who are wearing heavy woolen garments out in the Sahara. See, that was one of the reasons I fell in love with the movie and watched it, is in that beginning scene, because they didn't have an evap bag that would produce cool water and stuff. It'd make you feel good, but it also slows down peristalsis and slows down your whole metabolism when you've just driven into what is enemy territory in the North African campaign. The Sahara is supposed to be So I just want to drive that home, is that people have long known that if your water's sitting out in the sun and on a hot day and stuff like that, which it usually is, it's going to be hot like the day around you, or maybe even a little hotter. And it wouldn't hurt you to pump it up to hot tea level, because it makes you flush, it gets the heat in your core out, you sweat, you essentially immediately use the water you're drinking to replace the water that you're about to, it's gone through your lymph, all that stuff, lymph system, and you're about to use as an evaporative cooling agent. Because when you put ice cold shit in the middle of your gut, like I did yesterday, which was loaded with toxic citrus, and you see what happens last night. And you can't have that in anybody's. Swear, the next person who comes up here bringing me some ice cold drink in the middle of summer, which is what they drink, which is why they're sluggish and they're bitching about the temperature when it ain't really hot. A Texan really doesn't consider it hot until it gets to at least 105, especially when I'm in the shade. I really only put on this hat so that the sunlight, the dappled sunlight coming through the tree, wouldn't be interfering with my vision or what you see on the screen. But that's it. A little bit of old wisdom, which is accurately portrayed in that movie, is it's best in the desert to drink something hot. And especially in that dry air, it's better than drinking something ice cold. In that dry air, your sweat will evaporate instantly. And you're getting a shot of potassium. It's, if you got a lump of sugar with it, excellent. Then you got oral rehydration therapy. You got one of your primary electrolytes. You people that go around drinking big gulps all day during the summer, you feel miserable and you're not adapting to the Texas warmth. Don't call it hot. We haven't had a really hot summer since about 1980 when it was 118 degrees for 3 days out of the 5 weeks. It was over 104. So I hope you get this message and understand. No, you won't. I'm wasting my time. I know it. Maybe only 2 or 3 of you will get it, that you should really drink. I'm not talking about coffee, tea, green tea in particular. They were drinking actually black tea. Nope. You get the potassium with the black tea, but you get some other funkies. But the old Sargent had it right, and he still had on his overcoat when he went out there, because you need insulation from the sun. That's why the desert peoples insulate themselves from head to toe from the sun. They let their sweat come up into that cotton or wool. Maybe that's why God doesn't want us to mix fabrics, because they have different characteristics when you're trying to essentially create an evaporative cooler. But yeah, if you want to have a heat stroke, you go ahead and drink all that ice cold shit all summer long that you want. You'll feel horrible while you're working. You'll hate your work. But if you just took the time and had a little 12-ounce, 14-ounce cup of hot tea like me, you might have an entirely different mood, or might even whistle while you're working and stuff like that, because you're becoming heat tolerant and you're doing it the right way. Drinking cold liquids makes you heat intolerant. Let me repeat that. Drinking cold liquids makes you heat intolerant. You're not doing yourself any favors. Okay, I'm out of here.